What's up, y'all? It's Sean Manila, day 97 on the Road to Code, 100 Days of Code Challenge. It's been a minute since I uploaded. It's been a crazy month. Just had my son born a week ago, basically, and just been settling in for a while. It's just excuses, but it is what it is. Still out here grinding. Even though I haven't really been posting, still been doing stuff a little bit here and there. Just been working on my blog, revamping it, working on a few different websites as well, and mainly just been listening to JavaScript interview questions on YouTube, for the most part, just repeating it to get a good concept of doing the technical questions good. But let's just get right back into where we were at. On the vlog side, it's day 97. This is where we built a mean stack app, part 1. So it's the final lesson in Node.js course at this point, and this is applying everything that I've learned from the course to build an app, a common app. To understand many of the moving parts of a coding language is to build a to-do list, it's like the go-to project to show your understanding of code. The requirements for this app is a user can add, edit, and delete to-dos. Each to-do can be marked as complete. Each to-do can have one optional file attachment, and one person cannot access the to-dos of another. Alright, so initial setup. First thing that I did was create an empty folder in the command terminal with npm init. Then I labeled the folder as node-to-do. Next, I know that I'll need Express, so I download this real quick with npm install express-save. Another staple is for EGS for templating. So I installed this with npm install EGS-save. Along with EJS, I installed body parser to submit JSON data. This is also installed with npm install body-parser-save and the command line terminal. Lastly, I installed Mongoose with npm install mongoose-save to interact with the MongoDB database. And that is enough to get us started with the API creation. After typing in the commands in the command terminal, our folder isn't empty anymore. We'll now have a packet.json. Next, I created an app.js file. In the app.js, we require Express, start it, set up the port, and I also know that I'll be making code for the browser, my front end. So I set up the public assets folder. That'll be just delivered straight to the browser. I will also need to implement a view engine. I still will need a little bit of templating with the server side as well, which we'll just listen to that port just in the setup phase. This will set up our app to wait and listen, but it's not actually doing anything yet. Alright, so it's good to go for the database. At this point, setting up Mongoose. First thing in setting up Mongo, I went to the MLab website, just create a new database name, node-to-do. It'll be empty, it'll be completely empty, and we'll need to set up our schema. That'll be set up with Mongoose. From there, we'll just grab the URL to add into our app. And this is, you get all that information at MLab. And next, we have to make sure that we can connect and configure the connection. We'd like to make the connection easy to change from development configuration and production configuration so that we can plan different databases. So different databases for, after you develop it, for launch and beta. For this, I make a config folder, and inside I'll make a config.json file. And aside is that I'm storing the username and password to my database in plain text in a file. You wouldn't normally do this, however, Facebook apparently did this with millions of people. Have people's passwords in plain text, so I don't even know what to say about that. Next, it's Facebook, so it is what it is. To be expected. Next, we'll make an index.js file and get that config JSON. And again, remembering I'm requiring the // means it's local, config is the folder that I'm in, but in this case I'm inside config, so /config is actually going to go to the config.json file. And the side is that I don't have to put a JavaScript or JSON. Alright. So what I'm going to do is export an object. Modules.export will be what requires return. Then I'm returning an object, and object will have a method on it. I'll get getDB connection string, and it'll just be a method, a function, and it will return, well, if you remember what that URL looked like, I now have a config values.username, and I needed a colon and config values.password. And then this was the rest of the URL, and that's it. So at this point we have an object which, when you require config from outside the config folder, we'll get this object with this method on it that returns a connection string to the database, and we'll use that to connect to Mongo. The user and password is already configured. So looking good at this point. We are using what we learned about module.exports. Now I've set myself up to connect to the database via the string. Next we have to define what my data looks like, so I'll make another folder called models, and inside the models folder I'll create a file name to do model.js. This will actually require Mongoose as well, but because we're gonna set up our schema, we did this earlier. At this point, create our new schemas. Var schema equal mongoose.schema, and var to do schema equal new schema. And next we need to configure out whose to do it is, so I'll attach a username to it. This is an individual to do, and the to do itself, the string that we type, like remember the milk or something like that, is done. This will be true when it's checked off. Then I will create a new model using that schema. This is what I'm gonna export. So now that I have a reusable model, I can create to-dos. Also, I'll be able to delete them and update them and find them using the to-dos object being exported, because mongoose.model will give it to me. So yeah, that's all there was. And day 97 on the road to code, 100 days of code challenge. This is your host, Chillin' Manila, signing out. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Chillin' Manila as well.
Chillin' Manila!